Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to the Brew Corner. I thought today I'd show you the new additions that I'll be using to make my future beers, or most of them. Oh, before I do, this is a kit. Very nice actually. It's a Polish company called Gozdower, and this is their California Common kit. It is actually very nice. It's a little bit hazy because I dropped the bottle just before I started filming, so, but not to worry, it still tastes very nice. And I've been quite impressed with their kits. I've made a few of them, and the Kölner beer is very nice. It's a Kolsch, obviously Kölner beer, but this is the Cali Common. They do a huge range of styles. Just a one-tin kit. You just add a kilogram of sugar or a brew enhancer. Are very simple kits, but they are very nice, and I'm enjoying it. You may notice there's no tea urn. Poor thing. I sort of got 1.5 brews out of it. I was making a beer called Royal Oak from my clone book, and it just packed in. It still works, but it's just not efficient enough for doing home brew. So I've actually donated it. It's going to the Salvation Army, and it'll work fine as a tea urn. I was pushing it too hard, I think. So what I've decided to do is invest in a 20-litre stock pot, a nice big solid stainless steel stock pot, and I've also got an industrial heater, hot plate. When I've used stock pots before, I've used a little small camping gas stove, and you had cans, and you put the cans in, and I did actually do that at my last brew, because halfway through using the tea urn it packed in, so I had to salvage. It was a shame I didn't actually video it, because I had to salvage it, and so I put it into the stock pot, and I put it on this camping stove, but I had to go through that many of these canisters just to keep a really strong flame underneath the stock pot, that it would become too expensive if I was to do that every time I wanted to make a beer. So I've invested in this. This is the Buffalo. It's 3,000 watt output, and it's actually made for professional kitchens. In fact, there's like a bracket at the back where you can bolt it to a wall, so no one nicks it probably. They are a bit loud. There's a loud fan in them. I don't know how that would work with the videos, but I'm going to give it a try. But with 3,000 watts, that will keep a really strong rolling boil in the stock pot. And don't forget, with dry extract brewing, you only make 10 litres, so it's not having to heat up that much liquid. And I actually asked on a UK homebrew forum, what do you think is the best induction heater, or just any old hot plate? And they all came back and said Buffalo, by a long way. So I've got the Buffalo heater, I've got my stock pot, and that's what I'll be using for brewing. Now, when you brew with dry malt extract, you also use specialty grains to add flavour and colour and a little bit of aroma. And I've decided for that what I'm going to use is, believe it or not, an urn. This is a little urn here. I don't think you can see it on camera. Oh, there it is. I'll hold it up. Now, this is sold as a mulled wine warmer, so it keeps your mulled wine warm. And I've also thought in winter it would be good to keep my meads warm. I could put mead in here, put in some fruits as well, some oranges and things like that, and it's got a variable temperature control, and it will just keep it at that temperature. So this is going to be what I use to steep my grains in. I'll set it at 65 degrees, something like that, and they'll sit in here in a little muslin bag and just steep away for half an hour. And so this will be my steeper. This is what I'll use to steep grains. 5 litres it holds, so that's what this is for. And then I'll just transfer this into here, add another 5 litres, and then add the dry malt, and then we can start brewing. Once all that comes to a boil, we can add the hops and so on, and then you make a beer. So these two together, I think, are going to be a really good combination. And I do like brewing using a dry malt extract because for me it's a really nice halfway house between at one extreme the kits and at the other extreme all grain. Now I do all grain brew in the bag. I've got a 40 litre, I think it's 40 litre Grainfather Spurge kettle or something like that, sparging kettle, and I've done a brew with it. I did a Grolsch clone. The problem is it took me 5 hours and I just don't have 5 hours free very often, in fact very rarely. So I can't do many all grain beers. Kits are easy. You can just put them together in 20 minutes, half an hour, no problem whatsoever. But the thing with kits is you're pretty much stuck with the kit. You can tweak it by adding hops, you can tweak it by adding some specialty grains, using a different yeast, but at the end of the day, the kit's the kit. Now what I like about this method is that there's a shed load of beers you can make, all different styles. In fact, I've got that clone book, here it is, the clone book, 200 recipes, all dry extract recipes, 200, that'll keep you going a long, long while. And there's lots more on the internet, of course. And what's also good is you can start to design your own recipes with experience, and you can convert all grain recipes. So you can take an all grain recipe, and I think there's software that will do this as well. You can take an all grain recipe and convert it to a dry malt extract recipe. So, I mean, there's thousands of recipes all over the place on the internet, and you can brew those beers. So you've got much more flexibility doing it this way than with a kit. A kit, you're stuck with a kit. You can tweak it a little bit, but it's still the kit. With this, much more flexibility, and it only takes 2 hours. Anyone can find 2 hours in the day. So this is why I'm going to choose this as my preferred way of brewing. I'll still be making a lot of kits. In fact, ironically, my next one's here ready to go. I've got about 4 kits lined up to brew. Well, 5 after this, 5 including this. This is Beer Works. It's the Uncle Teddy's Yorkshire Bitter, which is meant to be very similar to a popular UK beer called Landlord, Timothy Taylor's Landlord, and that is really nice beer. That's a nice, it's like an old school English bitter. So this one is meant to be very similar, this Uncle Teddy's Yorkshire Bitter, an English ale kit. So this is actually, ironically, after saying all that about this is going to be the next thing I brew. And then I've got 2 Morgans still. I've got their old, and I've got a bitter, and I've also got 2 from a shop in the UK, high street shop called The Range. If you're not from the UK, it basically, it's a household shop. There's furniture in there, there's utilities, things like that, kitchen utilities and all this sort of thing. But they've also moved into the homebrew market, and there's quite a few different beer kits, all in their own branding. And I've chosen the American Pale Ale, or I think it's an IPA, and an Irish Stout. So I've got those 2 kits. But with this, I'm also going to be brewing very soon. I've got that Fat Angel that I think I mentioned in a previous video. So I'll be brewing that probably this weekend, and that will be the inaugural brew of this system. I've used this before. Oops. I've got a brew now conditioning the bottles, a clone of the Royal Oak Pale Ale, a brew that's quite popular down in Dorset, I believe. And I steep the grains in this, and it works absolutely beautifully. This really does work well as a grain steeper. So I know this works. This is going to be the interesting bit, so I might video it when I make this. But yeah, so this will be, I'll probably do it tonight actually, and it'll be ready in 4 weeks for a taste test. Probably won't be ready properly until about 6 or 8 weeks, but 2 weeks in the fermenter, a couple of weeks in the bottle, and it'll give you a good idea of what the beer's like. In fact, it could even be very sessionable after 4 weeks, so we'll have to wait and see. But this is from now on going to be my preferred way of brewing, because it's much shorter time period. You know, it takes a lot less time than all grain, 2 hours as opposed to 4.5 or 5 hours. You've got practically all the flexibility of all grain, maybe not as much, but I would say 80% of the flexibility of all grain, and it's just very convenient. And the brews I've made with dry malt extract, brewing it from scratch, adding hops and boiling, I do think they are a little bit better than a kit beer. There's nothing wrong with kit beers, you know, I'm still going to be brewing kit beers. In fact, the commercial quality, but I do find there's something a little bit better when you do it this way, you brew it yourself. Maybe it's just your own interpretation because you spent time, I don't know, but I just like this way of brewing. So this is going to be the brewery setup now. The mulled wine warmer, stroke mead warmer, stroke grain steeper, and the 20 litre stock pot, plenty big enough for extract brewing because you only do 10 litres, so a nice big headspace in case of boil overs. And then of course with that 10 litres you then top it up in the fermenter to 20 litres. Actually after the boil you're probably only going to get 8 litres, and then you'll put 12 litres of cold water in once it's in the fermenter. So I've got my stock pot and the industrial hot plate. We'll have to see how this bears out, but I'm sure it will be okay because this came highly recommended on a Facebook homebrew website, homebrew group. So I'm sure this will be, it'll just work perfectly because lots and lots and lots of people use them. But they're not cheap, I'll tell you that. But I mean, well, it's industrial, so there you go. But you pay for what you get. It will last me probably years and years and decades, and I probably won't even have to buy anything else for the brewery now that I've got this. We'll see. That's not a bad beer. It's not the best. It's not the best in the range that I've tried, but it's all right. It's decent. It'll do today on a nice sunny afternoon. So hope you're having a great time. Hope you have a great day, and until the next video, as always, I'll see you again in the next video.